Libby Gray, lighting designer for the band Styx, with another segment on how to call follow spots. Today, in the middle of Summer Tour 2022, we are in Moline and the Quad Cities. And for those of you who've seen other segments in this series, I did not lose my mind putting on my makeup today. I just got really sunburnt at the Minnesota State Fair this week. For those of you who have stumbled across this and wonder why you still need to know how to call follow spots, it is something that you have to have as a skill in your back pocket, because the size of your tour will not save you from this need sooner or later. Despite all the technical wizardry and gizmos that exist, the example this summer of Def Leppard and Motley Crue, who are on by far the biggest tour in America this year, still encountered a situation where for all their might and all their money, they were not permitted to use their Follow Me system, and their directors had to go it live and just call a bunch of local spots. And they had mixed results because some of their directors were prepared to do that and some were not. So be one of the ones who is prepared to do that, even if you have the luxury of console-assisted follow spot operation. Today, I want to talk a little bit about spots in other countries. In another segment, I briefly touched on Quebec and how they speak idiomatic stage French, which Google Translate will invariably render incorrectly. And if you are a North American director, you really want to learn the 30 words you need to call spots in French in Quebec. Quebecois is different French. As just one example, if you should try to use Google Translate for stage left and stage right, you will get the wrong terms. The actual terms are garden and yard. And there's a whole segment that explains more about that. But learn the words, because you're going to be going to Canada a lot. On the other hand, other situations arise where it is simply impractical to learn 30 words in a new language every single day. So, number one, when you tour Europe, you are very likely to have truck drivers who are also your spot ops. That is a great specialty over there. It developed because while the US and the UK developed rock and roll touring as we know it, in Europe, the countries are so close together with so many different languages spoken that they very quickly figured out they needed a stable of English-speaking spot ops everywhere they went if this system was going to work. And then they kind of went, oh, hey, look, all the Edwin Shirley trucking guys are doing nothing over there, so let's use the truck drivers. And that has evolved to the point where now in Europe you may expect your truck drivers to be spot ops. They are not slumming. They are truck drivers and professional spot operators. They are very good at it, and it's always a joy when you have enough trucks to cover all your spot positions and you just don't have to think about it again for the rest of the tour in Europe. That's the best option. But there are places where you will not have that luxury. You will not have that luxury in Central America or Mexico or Asia, or if you're doing fly dates. You either don't have trucks or the trucks you have are not professional spot ops. And so in those cases, you will probably have a translator. How do you operate with a translator? I find, and this is just one woman's approach, that breaking my cues, instead of a two-part, standby and a go, imagining your cue as a three-part section. A standby, a break for the translator to translate it, and then your go cue. I also find it helps to explain this, to hash this out with the translator well in advance of the show. Not at doors, definitely not on headset, but at dinner time, sit down and explain, we're going to do cues thus. I'm going to describe it, you're going to describe it in the local language, and then I am going to give the go cue. And you'll ask your translator to make it very, very, very clear to those spot ops that they are not to take the cue when the translator says it, but they are to wait for the American lighting director to say the word go, and that's when the cue happens. And if you lay that out clearly enough, typically you'll have a very smooth operation. Sometimes I say the word go in the local language. Come on, it's one word, we can all learn one word. And sometimes the word go is the word. There are a surprising number of countries where in follow spot call, even when they're given in the local language, they still use go as the trigger word. Again, probably a legacy artifact of the fact that mostly the UK and the US invented follow spot for rock and roll touring. So that's how you handle it with a translator. Works pretty well. The third thing that happens is when you are told they speak English, but they do not. And that's where the waters get murky and you run into problems. In those cases, trust but verify. And in this case, verification means get a cheat sheet together. You will need, in no particular order, numbers 1 through 6 for your frames, more numbers if you have more spots than that. You will need the names for your handful of instruments on the stage, standby, blackout, go, and home position. And finally, you will need to know stage directions. We already explained why that's important. Don't trust Google Translate. Google Translate will probably get you the word for piano correctly in every language, but don't count on it understanding what center stage is. You're likely to get 2 completely unrelated words for that. Get some local advice and get your cheat sheet together, and you'll be fine. You'll hack through the show. I have an anecdote about how advancing this will not save you. Some years ago, I was doing a European tour and had done all my advance via email, as one does, and I had advanced a show in Milan with an Italian gentleman who spoke, or at least wrote, perfect English, absolutely perfect. And he was to be my translator that day because, as he explained, they did not have operators who spoke English in Milan. Great. We went through consoles and networking and the lighting rig and spot gel colors and all of the things you talk about when you advance your show. No problems, until the morning we showed up in Milan and he was not there. Turns out his production team had sent him fire jumping, not just out of the city, but out of Italy to another tour in much worse shape than ours. I never even learned where he was sent. But there I am with a lighting crew who speak no English. And I mean none. I had a charming master electrician who could not even greet me in English, didn't even know hello. And admittedly, I knew no Italian. Just don't. Grazie. That's it. That's all I got. So we took a few moments in shared mutual horror to realize we were at an impasse. And then we started fishing around and stumbled across the fact that we both speak piss-poor Spanish. So using bad Spanish as a common platform, we worked out the list of terms that I would need to call in bad Italian. And we got through it. The point is this. Your advance, for all you're meticulous at it, and it may be a very good, very thorough advance, it will not always save you. Sometimes it goes south. Do not throw a temper tantrum. Do not be a spoiled brat. Please, dear God, do not be an ugly American. You just make it harder for everybody else who has to come after you into the same venue and deal with that staff. Don't reinforce our own bad stereotype. Have some patience, be calm, think outside the box. Oh, you don't speak Italian. What languages might we have in common? If you don't have any languages in common, try going to Google Translate and start writing words down. Write down pictures, draw the drums, and ask what the word is for this. But you're clever. We can all figure it out. You only need a few words. In the very worst case scenario, what you need are standby, home target, blackout, and go. You can get through a show in 4 words. And the important thing to remember is don't bring tension that isn't real. Don't make it more of a hard day than it already is. Don't make it more of a crisis than it already is. You probably already know this, but the truth is that no lighting director in history has ever been fired because for one show in one foreign country, one translator didn't show up and the spot cues were terrible. That is not going to cost you your job. Don't pretend it's going to cost you your job. Don't lose your mind over it. Be calm, be professional, be inventive. If you can have a sense of humor about it, it'll help a lot. I promise you, you will get through this and you will not be fired. And of course, the 2 most important words, which you will already have studied, right? Because you're going to a foreign country, are thank you. Use those at the end of your show on headset. They'll remember that you tried. It'll be fine, I promise. All right, see you next time.